You're listening to a special interview segment for the official podcast for WrestlingNewsSource.com.
Okay, folks, joining us on the show this week, he is the only wrestler in history to have held the WWE, ECW, and TNA World Heavyweight Championship, the one and only, the whole effing show, Rob Van Dam. RVD, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Donnie. I appreciate it. It's quite a dynamic intro, but I'm a dynamic guy, so it's all good.
Very cool, and we certainly appreciate your time coming on the show, talking a little bit of wrestling with us this week. For all RVD information, you can go to robvandam.com. You can follow him at TheRealRVD. You can also go to ProWrestlingTees.com/RVD. So really cool stuff. So welcome to the show. It's WrestleMania season. Everyone's buzzing. People are always returning, going here, doing this and that. I'm sorry?
I'm buzzing right now.
Very cool. What were your thoughts on your last WWE run?
Well, I had some good matches because all the wrestlers up there are like really good. So I mean, I had some matches that I enjoyed with I guess with Seth and with Cesaro, but overall, it was nothing like the run the year before. In 2013, I came back after many years off of WWE's television. They promoted it strong, like maybe stronger than anybody's return before with the video packages of RVD coming back. And when I came back, I delivered Money in the Bank match in Philadelphia. That was awesome. That whole run, I had a great time in 2013. 2014, it was like they had nothing for me. No big intro. The writers seemed to not notice I was there. Like my music hit the day after WrestleMania, and I just kind of like walked out like I'd always been there. So it was good, but I don't feel like there was a lot of utilization put on RVD. That's really the reason I'm not in a big hurry to go back.
No, okay. And you did mention like how you felt like the writers backstage didn't really have a big plan for you. It seems like that's sort of showing itself on the programming lately. Do you keep up with the programming, and what are your thoughts on the product right now?
I actually don't, even when I'm on it, unless I watch while I'm there in catering and the show's going on live. Otherwise, I don't really keep up with it. I certainly get a lot of feedback from fans because they're everywhere, and everybody wants to tell me whether they're happy or disappointed in what the wrestling product is. But it's an art form, and then the fans, it's their job to receive that art expression, and that's the way it goes. The fans don't dictate. I think that a lot of the judgment is okay for conversations when they're amongst themselves. But, as a wrestler, I think that when the fans really think that they know what would be better if they were in Vince's position, they think they could run a global, billion-dollar company, then I usually tend to think, it's probably that fan talk's probably going to be more enjoyed amongst themselves.
You've had a very lengthy career. You've reached sort of a legend status in the wrestling world. So, you can kind of come and go as you please to whatever promotion you want. So, I feel like I have to ask you, what are your thoughts on, sort of the part-time gig as opposed to full-time? Do you think it helps or hurts the products, because you have the up-and-coming stars who are trying to make a name for themselves, but they tend to have to take a back seat to the Brock Lesnar's, the Chris Jericho's, the RVDs. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that it's all about balance. You know what I mean? Like, first off, it is the kind of business that in order to get into it, you have to sleep, breathe, and eat wrestling. You have to compete with all these other up-and-comers that want it so bad, more than anything else in their lives. Like, they want this. And, anywhere in the world, if you're talking about trying to make it to the level of being a superstar and you're fighting against those odds, you pretty much do have to have that kind of determination to make it. So guys like myself and probably Chris Jericho, maybe Brock. But I can speak for myself personally and wholeheartedly and tell you that it's true for me. I don't want it nearly as bad as those other guys do. However, I have, over 25 years of experience that you can't replace with skill or with natural gifts or talents. I mean, whatever, that's something that you only get with enough time. So we have that. We have a lot to offer. Plus, like you said, I'm a legend. I've impacted people's lives in such a way that they'll never forget. I get that because I was a fan as a kid, and because I watched wrestling as a kid, even if I hadn't seen Rowdy Roddy Piper and Greg the Hammer Valentine since, if I haven't seen them in the last 25, 30 years, I would still recognize them if they walked into the room. That's the way that you impact someone's lives when you're on their TV set in their living room week after week, especially for a certain growth period in their life. That's the kind of superstar vibration that you can't buy. You can't get that anywhere else. So you have to utilize that, and you got guys like that to draw, and you got fans that want to see that. Fans, generations of fans. I mean, I've been doing it so long. I have people say, I had something yesterday on Twitter that said RVD, when I was growing up, I wanted to be you. Now I showed my son your footage, and now he wants to be you. That's pretty awesome. I'm like a Highlander. Like I just keep going. So the young guys that come up, they can be really good. They can be talented. They can get the fans' attention, so they want to keep their eye on them. But they can't be legends and superstars without really having put in the time. So that's it. I mean, it's a balance. And again, when the fans that think they know what's best, they look at it either way. Either like the veterans, they're not putting the young guys over, they think, or they think, that, the young guys are, squashing the superstars. That's not right, or whatever. No matter what you do, they're gonna pipe up and complain about it. But when it comes to that, that's the way it is. Like last time, I don't think any of the young guys had to worry about playing second fiddle to RVD. I was on my back so often that I have to get the heels on my boots polished up. My toes are still brand new.
And you did, you mentioned making an impact and affecting people's lives. All you have to do is put your hands over your head, put your thumbs out, and start pointing to those shoulders, and people instantly know who you're talking about. I brought it up to a few of our listeners, fans of the show. Once they saw the thumbs coming down, they had some questions for you. So we do have some listener questions. One from Josette asking, who has been your favorite opponent who you think brought the best out of you?
Throughout my whole career, that's going to be Jerry Lynn. When I first wrestled him in ECW, I could have bowled right over him, and he could have just been, yesterday's challenger. But I thought that there was something special about him, and so the first time I wrestled him, we went 25 minutes, and by the end of the match, my hair was pulled out all over. I had a bloody nose. My outfit was ripped. We had splinters were pulling out of our ass, and when I finally beat him, I felt like I earned that victory, and that was, for me, what I enjoyed about that time period, ECW, being the whole effing show. I had enough control to make sure to do my part, to do what I could to make sure that anyone that bought a ticket to come to see me got their money's worth. Later on in life, that's taken away from you, because what can you really do if you're only out there for 2 minutes? And that's going to include 2 ring entrances, a run-in, and a finish. You can't, at that point, you can't be the whole effing show every night. So that's where some of the compromise was happening. But Jerry Lynn and also Sabu, because he's so like-minded. When we have a match, we both have similar ideas of what would make it a killer match. So that's what's important.
Nice. Blake wants to know, do you feel a difference between fans of different organizations like WWE, TNA, and ECW fans?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the ECW fans were original. I think everybody knows that. Like they were part of the show, and they were a big part of the show. And other fans in other towns and other countries even would imitate the fans that were on the ECW's television. So the fans actually had their own fans. Now with WWE, I mean, there's a mixture because it's such a big crowd, but you have the middle America kind of crowd that they target, you know, that has it's children and it's families and it's family entertainment. The hardcore fans also go to those shows, so you're going to feel their energy in there too. But the wide majority of that vibration, that energy from the crowd, is more of a family fun kind of thing. You know, now with TNA, the fans that would come out to Universal Studios when I was there, a lot of them were fans that were shuttled in from the park that were there to ride roller coasters and got to go to a free show. And then there was the other fans that were there that would support the product because they really wanted to see TNA get ahead. They believed in the product. They liked coming to a wrestling show regularly and being part of it. It's a social environment for them. But at the same time, those fans, they want to do their part to try to get the company ahead so that it survives and that it continues moving forward. And that comes with its own kind of supportive energy. So for sure, big difference in all of them.
Cool. Our buddy Ryan says, I was a huge ECW fan and started tearing up for the nostalgia and then seeing you beat Cena for the strap. What was the atmosphere like during the 2006 One Night Stand?
Well, I mean, I think everybody could feel the atmosphere watching that, you know, and the fans were screaming and throwing Cena's shirt back at him. It was, you know, it was perfect. There's always been this feud between Philly and New York, and they would argue about which fans were the better ECW fans. And we would travel back and forth, and they would, you know, they both wanted us to consider them a home. Excuse me, I got to sneeze. Okay, it went away. Anyway, so, you know, having said that, the Manhattan Ballroom was like the perfect environment to capture that energy, to have the fans, you know, pouring like right over top of us. And just the fact that those fans that night were 100% behind me and my passion and my vision, which brought that night to, you know, to fruition, because it was me. It was me alone, you know, that said, hey, let's do a pay-per-view and have it be ECW and just have everybody that was ECW be able to wrestle ECW style, because that's the way we want to go. We want to do it, and that's what it was all about. And the fact that we knew at that one in 2006, we knew that we were going to be using that momentum to roll into a third brand that was going to be on Sci-Fi. And so it was a very, very happy time for me and my career. I went through several cycles of motivation and then frustration and then back to motivation. At this point, I felt awesome, and I felt like I could keep doing it for many, many, many years if I was able to wrestle ECW style, but on WWE's Grand Central stage in front of the world. That was just win-win-win for me.
Yeah.
Very cool. We've touched up on WWE. We've touched on ECW. You've spent some time in TNA, and I know you mentioned earlier that you don't really follow the products, but what were your thoughts during your time in TNA, and also your thoughts on them moving from Destination America from Spike?
So, you know, when I first got there, they were trying to do Monday nights up against Raw, and I thought that sounded exciting. You know, I didn't know much about them, but they were trying to hire some former WWE guys, it seemed like, or guys with some star power, and try to go up against. So I thought, okay, well, that's going to get people talking for sure, but Some of the guys they seemed to not hold on to. They switched because that wasn't working. We weren't getting the ratings. And the whole time I was there, they were still trying to do the right thing, move around different nights. They ended up moving out of the studios and doing their TVs on the road. But at that time, that was like the same week that I left them after doing 3 years with them. It was cool. It was an easy gig. I would work for 2 days, and then I would have 2 weeks off. And it was, so that was like easiest gig out of my career until they started adding more house shows, more events. But I had a cap on how many shows I would do in a year. So when they would use up all my dates, then they would injure me and I'd be off for a couple months. And it was, there was always, sometimes it looked like they were doing things right. Other times not so right. When they turned Jeff Hardy into a heel, I thought that was the stupidest thing ever. Vince Russo was telling me about, it's the right thing to do for business. And they people loved Jeff. They loved RVD and Jeff. Like we were two of the baby faces. Like they would have loved to see us tag team. That would have been great. They loved to cheer. The kids loved Jeff Hardy. And now he's spitting on them, trying to get them to buy that he's a heel. I couldn't get behind that. I thought it was ridiculous. Just like I thought it was ridiculous that they filleted me and had ripped my skin open and left me on TV like shredded in a pool of blood to give me some time off because I used my dates up, and then I come back later on and I didn't even have any scars or anything. And so it was like it was hard to take a lot of what they were doing seriously, But at the same time, I was there for them, I was trying to do my part and trying to help spread the word and do what I could to draw attention to TNA. When they moved to Destination America, I wasn't surprised. I was always hearing that their deal with Spike was over. Like while I was there, I was always hearing, TNA's going to fold. Their deal with Spike's going to end. They're not going to renew. They're going to fold. And they've still been going strong against all these rumors, so I'm not going to rule them out at any point as long as as long as they look like there's a reason to believe they'll be around, then I think they can do it. But Destination America is a brand new channel. Nobody knows about it. So their attendance, their viewership, of course, went way down and plummeted, which isn't what you want because they weren't getting the best viewership anyway. I mean, they were kind of keeping a bit of an average, but they were hoping to grow. They've actually gone in the other direction, but hopefully that's just temporary, growth pain due to the move, and hopefully Destination America will be able to boom from it. But in the meantime, I don't think anybody's touching WWE's position as number one. I think it is a good year for independents to step up and have bigger shows. They're able to offer more. There's a few guys that are talking about actually organizing some of those companies, guys like Jeff Jarrett, Shane Douglas. They have the brain power to actually do something. So I think WWE is right now allowing that to happen in the wrestling universe, and that's probably a good thing.
Competition is always a good thing. And we were, during your time in TNA, we were fortunate enough to go to a local house show that TNA had when you were the TNA champion. So that was pretty cool. But, getting out of wrestling, because you've done more than just wrestling in your career. You've done acting, you've done voice work, comics, all kinds of good stuff. So I want to dive into some of that, some of your extracurricular activities, I guess. You voiced the character Bobby in Saints Row the Third and Saints Row 4. Did you have to audition for that role, or were you contacted about it? How did that come about?
Yeah, no, I was just contacted. I don't remember how the original conversation took place, but the guy that was handling the production, I've known him through previous projects and worked with him in the past. It was just fun. I hate doing auditions, so that's one thing that keeps me from doing more work in the acting world is that you got to come after RVD and say I'm looking to cast RVD. Otherwise, it's probably not going to happen.
Do you play video games?
I don't. I mean, I grew up on video games, and I'm a fan of the genre, but I don't spend any time playing them currently. And so,
Gotcha.
any games I'm going to be able to name are going to be like way back, Dig Dug, Moon Patrol, shit like
Hey,
that.
man, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Those are awesome. And you did spend some time, creating a comic books. Are there any comics that you're into right now?
I'm not reading anything in the comic world right now, but Deadpool is my favorite character as an adult. My favorite character my entire life has always been Ghost Rider since I first found him when I was like 7 years old. So I have the biggest, most ridiculous collection of every statue and every item with Ghost
Nice.
Rider's trademarked image on it. But Deadpool is way cooler. And now everyone has caught on to Deadpool, so now he's like really hot, and it's not hard to find merch with him. But yeah, I have my book is Twisted Perception, the graphic novel that I wrote. I actually like to write. I fancy myself a writer that doesn't get around to writing nearly enough, but that's something that I enjoy doing.
Very cool. We always like to ask this question. Are there any particular road stories that you could share, and a side part not involving 18 grams?
I don't know why this just popped into my head, but when we were in Ireland, not WWE, but this is for AWR, we had some really fun tours over there for this group. And on this particular tour, Gangrel was on the tour, and every night he had a casket match where he would have to roll the opponent into the casket that was beside the ring, or vice versa, I guess, to end the match. And we pulled over at some truck stop, and Sabu and I had this idea because there was a blow-up doll, a sex doll, that they were selling there. And so we got it. Sabu bought it. And she did the tour with us, like every day. Like we bring her into the dressing room, and she got abused a lot. People all over her, and she was actually on tour the whole time. But so we had this idea one day that it would be funny if we could sneak her into the casket right before they bring the casket out to the ring. That way, during the match, they lift open the casket, this sex doll would be there in front of everybody. And the fact that we were like in a high school and it was in front of kids, that just made it funnier to us.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome. So I love that question, because you always get something you weren't expecting, and that is awesome.
Yeah.
So we have one more question for you before we wrap things up. You've accomplished so much in your career. What's next on your list of things to do? What's left to accomplish for Rob Van Dam?
Well, there's a lot in the writing world. Like, it's very important to me that I get my autobiography out, before I die, and someone else writes it and screws my whole life story up. So that's important to me, but at the same time, it's not something that I'm actively facilitating, because I have other writing projects that are also important to me, and I have to finish this fiction novel that I'm working on before I do that, or at least that's the way my brain is working. But anyway, I like to create, and I see myself in the future as using my brain more and my body less for business, and that's a good thing, and it's organic. It's a very natural thing that I see happening. There's movie projects that, there's several that I'm attached to as talent, or I've just signed letters of interest if they get the movies made. But there's also projects that are mine, and none that are like at a stage where it's time to start plugging them. But they're important to me because they're about educating people on stuff that I want to do my part to help share knowledge with the people. I think it helps better lives when they understand how life works more. So there's a lot, there's that kind of stuff, and like I'm always at least as busy, if not a little busier than I want to be. So, I'm for a while, I'm all right with consistency. I'm enjoying not being on the road with WWE. I'm enjoying the beautiful weather in California because I haven't been traveling to anywhere cold. It's so easy to forget that people have snow. Like I'll talk to my friend in Massachusetts. I'll say, "Oh, I got another 6 inches last night," and until they say that, it's not even on your brain. You're like, "Oh, that's right. You poor sons of bitches up there." All good. Yeah.
Very cool stuff. Well, enjoy that weather while you can. Obviously it's California, so the weather's always nice. For all information on Rob Van Dam, go to robvandam.com. Also at The Real RVD. You can also go to prowrestlingtees.com/RVD for all your RVD merch. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, cool, man. Thanks, Donnie. Thanks, Tyler. You guys have a great day.
All right,
Later,
you too.
Rob.
Have a good one.
All right, later.